All right, looks like we've got everyone on stage. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 31 of the Hideout. We're going to be talking about Web3 gaming in the Metaverse with a stacked panel today. We've got a really interesting set of questions for everybody, so I'm super stoked about this. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse. So if you haven't heard about Satoshiverse, we are a blockchain themed superhero universe. We've been building for the last 3 years, and we have been working on a roguelike RPG hybrid game built in Unreal Engine 5 for the last year and a half, getting real close to a mainnet release of that. So super excited about that. I won't talk too much about us. I posted a link to all the information you need. Check out the socials, check out the website if you haven't heard about us. But what I'm really excited about today is our panel. Today we're going to have 4 guests, and we'll jump into some questions for everyone at the beginning, and then we'll go through some individual questions about the projects and their contributions to the space. But really, a couple titans of industry up here, so super excited to have them. We'll start with, I guess, introductions of each guest. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves, the project, maybe where you're based, and what the information people need to get involved is. Also, feel free at any point to post a tweet to this Twitter Spaces so that people can check out the project, or if you have anything exciting coming up. But otherwise, really excited to have you guys. Why don't we start, I guess, in the order that I see them. We'll start with Worlds Beyond. And
Hi Nick, how you doing? How's things?
doing good. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. So, hello to all the speakers that are up there as well, and all the listeners out there. So, thanks Nick for having us on. I do appreciate that. So I'll give you a really brief background on myself, kind of, and what we're working on in the Web3 gaming space. So, I'm Clive Bennett. I'm the CEO and co-founder of our project Worlds Beyond. I'm also the CEO and founder of Fredbear Games, which is a game development and publishing company I founded over a decade ago here in the UK. We've developed and published, close to 40 titles over the years. We've earned over 20 awards for the games that we've kind of developed internally with our studio there, and we've also worked with kind of third-party studios titles that we've worked with to kind of help them further kind of develop, then distribute and publish as well past that. So things have been going really well with that. Kind of, we've done over 10 million in downloads, 10 million in revenues over the years on the various kind of publishing deals and the platforms that we've worked on. And then I had my co-founder for Worlds Beyond, Philip. He joined me back in 2017. He joined me as the CTO. He's really kind of forward thinking with all the kind of technologies, and kind of, he brought and convinced me to get into the Web3 space. So we both stepped aside from the Web2 business, and we set up a whole new team for our Worlds Beyond project. So that was around 2 years ago. 2 years we've been building this for now. We've got a team of around 35. And essentially, kind of what we've been building is Worlds Beyond, which is our AI-empowered creator platform. So what we're looking to build in a nutshell is the infrastructure and the tools. So we have a kind of a world editor, we have world building tools, we've got a digital asset library within there, and then we've got kind of the game builder portal, which is for kind of the game logic side of things. So we're allowing kind of anyone to come in, be a creator, to create and then host and then monetize if they see fit, kind of a gaming or a non-gaming experience. So what we often kind of badge ourselves as, or what we're kind of gearing towards, is being the kind of the Web3 Roblox for grown-ups. So that's what it is in a nutshell. I won't waffle on too much now. I'll probably lead into a bit more of that a bit later on.
Incredible. Well, Web3 Roblox sounds like a pretty good concept. I actually got involved in the space in 2017 through Decentraland. So just a very early concept of a world building type of platform. And I've been super impressed with what you guys are doing, checking out the website and trying to get involved. So very cool. Very excited to have you guys on. Why don't we go next to Search for Animera? and give us a quick introduction. Do we have you? I think we got you muted. All right, so there may be some technical difficulties there, but please search for Animera. If it starts working on your end, please check in and we'll get you introduced. If not, we can get you off stage and then get you back on stage and see if that helps. But in the meantime, why don't we move to, let's see, why don't we go to Crypto Guilds? Can you give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. It's Jeremy here. So I'm the founder of Crypto Guilds. Really happy to be here. So what we do, actually, we started like 18 months ago. It all started in an Airbnb on an island in Mexico. So that was a very, very beginning. We grew to become the largest B2B ecosystem, connecting hundreds of guilds with hundreds of Web3 games. What we've become is essentially Web3 games comes to us. They need different services. Most of the time, it's users, and then we connect them to guilds, and the guilds help and bring the users. And so we took that to the next level by launching a new innovative concept that we call the metagame. And it's kind of a layer that incentivizes users to discover a new game every month. So how it works, pretty simple. You need an NFT, it's your hero. And once per month, you have an in-game quest to complete each time in a new Web3 game. So that's why we call it the metagame. It's a layer that incentivizes users to complete in-game quests in new Web3 games every month, and then they get big rewards. So when I say big rewards, think about $100 for 1 hour of gameplay. And so our heroes are kind of upgradable. We have a lot of different things, but I don't want to bore everybody to try to detail everything. So just to get the general idea, I'll be happy to dive more or participate in the discussion going forward.
Amazing. No, that sounds super interesting. And I know, obviously user acquisition is front of mind for everyone up here probably. So, finding interesting ways to do that and creating, more incentive models for game discovery, I think is an awesome idea. I was checking out the website, and I think what you guys are doing is really, really cool. So thank you for being here. Let's go to let's see. Let's get Matthew. Why don't you give us a quick introduction? Matthew's from Star Atlas. He's the lead writer. So super excited to have you on, Matthew.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here. For those who don't know, Star Atlas is built on the blockchain. Obviously, it's on Solana, and it's an open world Unreal 5 game. We also have a desktop version, but it's a spacefaring story with factions, characters, and ships. Lots and lots of spaceships. We have a graphic novel called Core that sort of introduces you into all of the lore of the story. And last week we actually launched an extensive wiki that sort of gives all of the background to every character, faction motivations, governments. We have. I don't necessarily know all the numbers as the writer, but I can talk a lot about the lore. And the story is pretty deep. We have over 100 pages of the graphic novel that is already out to the community, and we actually launch Act 2, which is the second stage of the graphic novel, in July.
Incredible. Well, that's exciting. As a huge fan of lore myself, in our Satoshiverse project and writing some of that, I know how amazing and challenging that can be. So really excited to get your perspective on this one. I'm sure we'll dive into the lore a bit deeper with the individual questions. Let's go back to Search for Animera. Is things working on your end, or is we still having?
Yeah, let's give it a try. Third attempt
Yes.
here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
All right. Twitter's been up to it again. All right, guys. So I missed a little bit of the conversation trying to reconnect, but very quick intro on my side. My name is Adil. I'm the co-founder at Search for Animera. It's a PvP sci-fi shooter that we are going to launch in this year, and it's currently about to go into private beta pretty soon, in about a month's time. And we're going to follow it up with a public beta and then do a launch in this year itself. The co-founder and I, we both come from gaming backgrounds. The other co-founder did game production at Konami. I did game marketing in the Middle East region. And yeah, that's how we partnered up and decided to build something exciting in this space. Happy to be a part of this discussion.
Super cool. Glad we got the mics and everything sorted out, and that we have you on here. Yeah, it's I've been rugged by Twitter too many times to count. So I'm excited that this was just a soft rug and we got you back on. But last but not least, we have our wonderful host Spencer on the Apollo account. Why don't you give a quick introduction for those of you those who don't know you, and then we can jump into the questions.
Hey, thanks, Nick. My name is Spencer Vogel. I've been working with the Apollo Entertainment team and Satoshiverse for the last couple years, and I've been fortunate enough to host these spaces. So we're going to be getting into this discussion today, first with a question for everyone in the group, and then we'll get into some individual questions, and then some more everyone questions towards the end as well. So for the everyone questions, I'll call on someone to start first, and then feel free to just jump in, just an open discussion. And maybe Clive, you can start us off with this one. So the first one's going to be more of a situational based question. So imagine you're a Web 2 gamer just discovering Web3 gaming for the first time. Putting aside what you already know, what are some of your observations as an outsider about Web3 gaming, both positive and negative?
Yeah, okay. So, that's a good question. And that's kind of, a really big question in the space, really. So, if I was coming to Web3 gaming for the first time, I'd definitely be intrigued by, the potential of what kind of these blockchain gaming technologies could bring, and how they could potentially enhance kind of the current gaming experience. So I could definitely see that. And the thing I'd be most excited about, and the thing that kind of, is quite a big feature that is pushed really, is the potential for the true digital ownership. So of the in-game items, so that could be assets such as any characters, kind of in-game skins, weapons, props, kind of any of those things that we have in those games. And basically, if any of that was integrated well, and it's sold to me the right way, then I do believe that it's a really big feature that could come across really well and provide true value to the gaming experience, really. Having that freedom to be able to trade and then sell to other players, that is personally, I think, would be massive. And once people understand that's what it is, it seems like a no-brainer. It seems like it should be such an easy sell. I just think it's kind of been missold a little bit to the gaming public as, cash grabs, NFTs are a bit scammy and all that. But once they see they can have that ownership and they put the time in, and they can get something potentially in return for that. It's tradable. I think that should win them over, really. And tagging on to that, really, is the kind of what we're also big on is the interoperable side of things. So within our own kind of platform, so we're allowing kind of many different individuals and brands to come and build these games and experiences with us. So what we're allowing within some of our games is that within the ecosystem, say if you've got two different types of battle royale or shooter type games, we've got kind of a gunsmith system, so we're looking to be able to make that available. So if you take your gun into one of these experiences, you can then take it into another one and have it interoperable across those experiences. But what we're also integrating is some of the technologies that are available to us, which is kind of composable NFTs, where parts of the gun can be separate NFTs, but they can all be composed as one. And then also the dynamic NFTs, where kind of these the skill levels of these assets can upgrade over time. So for me, I think those would be two of the things that would be really positive for the gaming space, when they're integrated correctly and well. It's definitely going to add to the experience. And then obviously, on the flip side, there are some negatives. And I mean, I think for me, if I took a step back and came into it, even now being in the Web3 space, I would see this, that, I'd be concerned about some of the perceived complexities of Web3. It does seem a bit of a minefield, really, even with us being in the space. There are a lot of kind of things to to get a handle on and avoid, and just that barrier to entry to potentially participate in some of these games out there. You're going to need basically you need to be educated on the basics of blockchain technology, in some form or another, to kind of, just to understand how some of the specific Web3 game mechanics might work, or how they're integrated. So, that's definitely one of the negatives, and it's just about the onboarding and education, really. So it's not insurmountable, that it can be done. And then the one that kind of tags onto that really is kind of the security. So, how safe is it if people are trading these assets that we're saying they've got digital ownership with? So, and there's a lot of kind of the high profile hacks and scams, even those outside of Web3 have probably heard of some of those. And they're the things they're going to probably latch on to more. So, there's definitely some concerns that need to be addressed for people. It's going to take time, but as I say, neither of those negatives are insurmountable, and some of those are seen in kind of Web2 gaming anyway, in some respects. So, yeah, that's how I would see it. But on the flips, on the main side of it, I would say kind of the positives outweigh the negatives, and I think we're all in a good space going forward, really, from here.
Yeah, I would probably be parroting a lot that you just said, because I agree, a ton with most of those points. I guess for me, thinking about it as, which is hard because it's been probably 6 years now that I've been, fully within this bubble. But kind of getting outside of it, coming in for the first time, I think, right now and probably going forward, we are starting to solve the biggest issue that I think was present within the Web3 gaming space. And that's just that the games just weren't very good, right? The games just weren't very well developed. They were, kind of mini game experiences. They weren't these high fidelity, games that gamers are largely used to, other than, some of the casual gamers. But what we're seeing now, and if you go to GDC and if you go to some of these gaming conferences, is we're right about at that inflection point where a lot of these bigger game titles that have been in development for the last 2 or 3 years are starting to release their alphas, starting to release their betas, and eventually going to market. So I think that a gamer entering the Web3 space now is going to see just generally a higher quality of gameplay experience, and a move away from kind of the typical GameFi that you saw 2 years ago, that I think was largely, detrimental to kind of how gamers perceive the space. I think now what we're seeing is more fully developed game concepts, and I think that's going to resonate much better with gamers, because like you said, it's a pretty no-brainer concept. It should be an easy sell, at least to consumers, this ownership layer of NFTs and the rights that come with them, right? It's kind of like, who wouldn't want additional rights to their assets? Now, I think eventually that is going to come with trade-offs on the developer side, so that they can still make sure that those are profitable and that there's business models that are sustainable there. But I think right now, I mean, I think we say it probably every space, Web3 is one of the most consumer-focused technologies that's hit the gaming industry. And I think that, everyone's just kind of figuring out what to do with it. So there should become a point where Web2 gamers start to understand that this really is a good thing for them, that the ownership layer at least is. Now, that does probably mean extinguishing some of the kind of core problems with NFTs and the direct financial aspects of them. I think, anything that's built on, you're going to be able to make a living by playing a game, it becomes very difficult to sustain. And I think that rhetoric probably won't persist into the future. I think play to earn is going to be, a concept that changes, and it already is changing substantially since kind of the early days of Axie Infinity and games like that. So I think a gamer coming in now, with an open mind, is going to see a very different landscape, both in the NFT space and in the gaming space, that is much more sustainable than the landscape they would have seen even just a year ago. So I'm excited for that. I think maybe on the bad side, but of course this has just been getting better. the UI is still way too clunky. There's a few companies that are doing really great things to solve those issues, but those companies are still kind of in their alpha and beta versions. And I think we're probably about 6 months to a year from seeing, truly companies that have really solved some of these barrier to entry issues. There still are fairly high barriers to entries to just onboarding onto a crypto ecosystem, creating a wallet, spending, different regulations in different countries that make it harder for certain countries to get involved. So yeah, a lot of things at play. But definitely for me, it's a much better time to enter the space as a gamer than even 6 months or a year ago.
Yeah, 100% echo what you say there. Yeah, definitely kind of, agree with all of those. I'm sure kind of many people would be of the same thinking. So, we're all in this together and we're all hopefully kind of, trying to solve a lot of these issues and kind of, push things out there the right way, really. So I do believe we're firmly on track for that. A little bit more patience is required, but, I think once we get to that place, it's going to be part and parcel of how the space is, really. So, yeah, I agree with all of what you said.
And I would just add, I think any emerging industry has, quote unquote, ill-intentioned actors that emerge, and that's just an unfortunate reality of a capitalistic market. Is that when new verticals emerge, people try to take advantage of them. But I think you're spot on the point that we're at this inflection point where it's no longer just enough to put out a game and say it's on the blockchain. There actually has to be thought and intention and story and reasons to stay, because I'm not sure which of the two of you said it first, but the play to earn model in its current form, I agree completely, is probably archaic already. It's not that it's not exciting to be able to earn money potentially from playing games, but I think it shouldn't be the reason that you do something. It should be a happy consequence that is afforded to all of us because of this emerging technology.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because I think for me, the models that may be sustainable from this quote unquote play and earn type of system are actually things like what Crypto Guilds is doing, right? Project sponsored earning opportunities in order to increase player acquisition or to drive, more marketing functions. And I think that it'll be tough to sustain. There's always going to be a cost of user acquisition question there. But I think that those are the types of models that will persist, right? Co-marketing opportunities, partnerships with other projects where we do something in Satoshiverse and you play the game, but for this month only or this week only, you're going to be able to earn some sort of token for a partner project that just launched because they're trying to do marketing and expose users to their business. So I think that sort of model is what play and earn is going to evolve into. And then I think you have your traditional kind of RPG of time equals money, right? And there will be a really good game is going to have a market for their assets. And what Web3 does is it allows that market to exist in a decentralized sort of way where you can have assets with real value. But the market is going to set what the value of that playtime is. And if we've seen anything from the past in some of these open ecosystems, it's likely going to be a lot lower than I think users probably were accustomed to in the early days of Axie Infinity, right? Because if a game is really popular and you have tons of people playing it, and there's a real money aspect involved, people are going to value their time differently, right? And so I think we need to be aware of that, and I think that that's a very interesting game design discussion that we have internally. Is how do we make these games fun and progressive, but still have that not so much earning component, but a ownership component that allows the possibility of assets retaining value. And I think those are oftentimes two different questions that are kind of mixed together. And so for me, it's important that you're looking at that at the design stage, right? And so I think that's probably one of the bigger barriers to entry from, a game, a traditional RPG, just saying, oh, okay, we have this new tech that allows us to make items, Web3 items, and allow for ownership. What are we, how are we going to do that? I see Search for Animera has their hand up, so yeah, feel free to jump in.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I mean, very valid points discussed by everybody. I think Nick, it was you who mentioned that, if I were a Web2 gamer, coming into the space 2 years back, I would not even touch any of these games. And now what we're seeing is that there's a dramatic improvement in the visual quality because, Web3 games are realizing that you have to go back to the fundamentals in some things. So if the game does not look enticing enough, everything else doesn't matter. I think still at this stage there are some cons, which Web2 gamers would be thinking about. Like one would be that if I can buy a AAA title at $65 and that can give me hundreds of hours of entertainment, what can this Web3 game give me in terms of fun? And how you want to define fun? Be it like a challenge, be it in terms of exploration, anything. And that's again connected to one more point that why do I still need to buy an expensive in-game asset before experiencing a brand new IP that I have no experience with and not many people have experience with either. So it does feel like yes, there are barriers that still exist, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to go with free to play, because for Web3 games, it's up to us to first meet that expectation of Web2 gamers, and then understand that there has to be a right point in the game at which value exchange happens, rather than creating all these barriers. And even in terms of UI, I think it was Nick again. You mentioned that it's still clunky, and no doubt. So there are solutions, there are improvements happening, but still, as a Web2 gamer, I would be thinking about it, even though the positives are there that yes, okay, there's an open economy model. People understand that, through gray market that's existed for popular games. But yeah, I think the cons still exist, and hopefully the new games that are going to come out that are going to address these barriers that are there for mass adoption.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add before we move on to our individual questions?
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to revert back on what you were saying and the whole play to earn thing, etc., which is kind of what we do. We dived into it, and I know it's been a kind of a bad word, and everybody hates it for quite some time actually. But what is important to understand is that you have a distinction to be made. If you make a game, Web3 games, you have two different targets. Either you target entirely Web2 gamers, what we've been talking about, and then the way you're going to acquire these users is in a very Web2 way, very traditional way. So you don't have to do anything related to Web3 gaming. That's a whole different game. If you're going to just acquire Web2 gamers, you need to be good at acquiring Web2 gamers. You need to calculate your CAC on LTV. You need to do the advertisement. You need to do the collabs, et cetera, et cetera. Then these players will discover the Web3 aspects in your game. So perfect. If you target this audience, that's one thing. Then if you target the Web3 audience, so essentially it's like crypto gaming Twitter. And this is a very different kind of audience that expect very different kind of things. They're not the same persona. They like more money games. They like more the crypto aspects. Essentially, they have only one thing in common, all these users in the crypto Twitter gaming. They like NFTs and crypto. And there are not so many of those. So you cannot only count on crypto gaming Twitter users to be enough for your game, because there's not enough of these users that like the same type or genre of games. The only things that have in common is Web3 again. And if you look at polls, well, they all say that they prefer the earning NFT parts of the games. So I'm not saying it's wrong or good. I'm just saying it's a fact. That's what we have right now. That's the crowd that there is. And there is this new niche kind of game, which has been like the play to earn type, where of course it's not sustainable in the way it's been done so far. And the way we tackle it is essentially we we try to leverage the budget of games, like their user acquisition budget, and we give them directly to the player to incentivize them to do in-game actions. And around that, we create a meta layer that they have a game, so kind of a meta game. So the play to earn aspects is not relying inside the game tokenomics, it's actually relying outside what they can do around it. So that's how we kind of tackle this play to earn thing. So it makes sense because games have a user acquisition budget, and instead of giving it to Facebook ads or whatever, you give it directly to the players. So that raises a lot of concerns and questions. Are your users going to be ROI positive? Are they just here for the earning? Are they bounty hunters, et cetera, et cetera? Of course, right now that are all legitimate questions. But if you try to think around that, you will find new strategies to acquire users that could make sense and that actually make your game play to earn, even though it's not directly within your game. So that's the kind of thing that we see happening, that we are doing, and that we've been doing to help games acquire users. It's worked really well. So that was just my little 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think it makes a ton of sense. And that was kind of what I was touching on before, is that if this model is going to be sustainable, it has to be looked at as more of a, marketing budget item, cost of user acquisition item, rather than, because the value creation has to be somewhere, right? And I think the game ultimately, to be sustainable, needs to also benefit from that value creation. And so I think, the way you guys are doing it and framing it almost as just a cost of user acquisition is incredibly important. And I think it's going to be most important for early stage games that are trying to acquire their first 500 or 1,000 daily active users, trying to start to build that network effect, right? Where sure, $100 per user is probably, for an hour of play, is probably unthinkable on a cost of user acquisition perspective, unless those users then form a base that allows you to acquire another 10,000, daily active users for free or for a much reduced cost, because it's what gets the ball rolling. So I definitely see a lot of interesting things in that model, and I think it's a really, really cool take on how you guys are doing it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So now we're going to move into some individual questions. But before we do, I just wanted to let everyone know, so we give away prizes on all of our spaces, and we have quite a few prizes to give away. We actually have six different winners today. So definitely make sure you stick around to the end of the space to make sure that you have a chance to win. So moving on to individual questions, and by the way, feel free to pin anything related to your project if you want to show off gameplay footage or anything like that to the space. But the first question is to Adil. So Search for Anamera has both casual free-to-play mode, as you mentioned, and that competitive mode. So what was the motivation for having multiple gameplay modes, and how do they differ, and kind of what are the differences in the gameplay?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, in the previous answer, I did address about Web3 games trying to meet expectations, getting as many users in. That's our model, that we're going to use the free-to-play model to get users into the ecosystem, and we're going to have two completely different lobbies. So one is, let's say, your free-to-play lobby, in which users stay within that loop, but you get XP points, you upgrade your ship. But it also has fewer maps, fewer weapons, and the full premium experience gets unlocked in the competitive mode. What we're doing differently in the competitive mode, I think that's the highlight for us, because in this mode, you have to bring in tokens from your side. So let's say if there's a 5 versus 5 lobby in the competitive mode, and it's a $1 round, which means that the gamers who compete in those rounds have to bring in the equivalent amount in our native token. And then, depending on obviously several factors, like, where they are in terms of gameplay, they get to keep a much higher percentage. The winning team or the winning player in the PvP lobby, they get to keep a much higher percentage of the round's winnings, and the protocol keeps it. So as with more games that are played, more tokens get removed from the ecosystem. And also we are layering that with NFTs. So you can have a generic asset, which is, again, we're not forcing people to buy NFTs as such. So you're going to have, let's say, the same spaceship as a Web2 asset, which you can purchase through fiat. But if you want to purchase the limited quantity NFT. Then you can make that as a Web3 purchase. And obviously, if you have the NFT, then you get to keep, again, a higher percentage of the round's winnings. So this is how we are trying to differentiate, and we're not letting users immediately jump to, let's say, a much higher price round. Users have to go through the earlier levels of free to play sites so they get comfortable with the game. They have to unlock higher price rounds as they go through, as they win more rounds in the competitive mode, and as their kill ratio. And there's a lot more user level ranking that goes into it. But that's a main differentiator for us because, like it was discussed in the early points that, okay, with play to earn, where's the earning coming from? Can users actually quit their job and just play this for a living? Like, probably not. But with our approach, there's no black box either. There's no magic beans. It's a zero sum game. So if I win, I'm going to take away tokens from somebody else's side. So it explains very clearly to users what do they need to do in order to win and compete against others. And depending on the type of game, I mean, we're not addressing the exploration type of market in Sapphire. We're not addressing the social type of gamers, but we are heavily focusing on people who like to have massive inventory of items and ones who focus on literally killing others inside the game. So they get the thrill out of that type of competition. So those are two main types of gamers that are addressing, and this is how we are differentiating the free-to-play side and the competitive side of things.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it's a really interesting model. Definitely excited to see how that plays out and see how that becomes successful, hopefully. So next question is to Matt. So storytelling, as you said before, is very much at the forefront of what you're building at Star Atlas. So I was wondering, as head writer, what does that process of developing the lore look like, and how does that lore actually come across in the gameplay?
Yeah, totally. I think one of the things that is so special about Star Atlas and how we're building it is that all of the departments, and I've said this before on other Twitter spaces, really work together. We have deep conversations with econ, with ship development, with character development. It is such a melting pot of ideas because story should connect to everything, both in-game and in-game mechanics. You should feel like you're in the story when you're doing any action within the universe. And I have a deep philosophy that you shouldn't be writing lore if you can't teach a 9th grade history class on the subject, that the lore should be so deep that we can articulate that in curriculum. And that's sort of how we design all of our lore. That's this wiki that I'd mentioned earlier, that I posted a link. I'm not sure if it pinned or not. I'm not the best on these Twitter space things. I'm definitely much more of a writer than I am a technologist in that sense. But the idea of the wiki was to really show the depth of how our characters are developed, how they have grandfathers of grandfathers and hundreds of years of story behind them to make the decisions, because every decision that you see as a player is based on a magnitude of events that have happened in their life, just like with any one of us. Every decision that we make is an amalgamation of the experiences that we've all felt. And I think it's really important to make sure that characters have that same level of dynamic thought process. That's sort of how we design, think, and execute the story. And then the integration into the game is pretty in-depth. Whether it is through subtle nods within ships and designs to the story arcs of specific events and modes, the actions of the graphic novel, of the lore, of all the different aspects of things that have come out and that are coming out, all sort of work as a fluid, linear, and bilinear line within the story universe.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and with your background in the comic book space, it definitely, it's cool to see how this is all going to play out and how the story is going to fit into it. I've seen a little bit of the graphic novel, and I've been super impressed. So yeah, keep up all the great work.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. We're super pumped about the graphic novel and how that's been received, and we have a bunch of other items and things within the story and lore world that are going to be announced and starting to release this year into next. So it's a pretty exciting time for what we're building.
Awesome. And your thing ended up getting pinned, so you're good there, by the way.
Thank you.
So next question is to Clive. So in a space crowded with other land-based metaverse and gaming projects, how does World Beyond stand out from the pack?
Yeah, so just on the Star Atlas game, that's probably one of the games I've been looking forward to the most. I saw kind of the showroom release the other day. Looks amazing, and to see how kind of the story and the lore comes into play, and that really psyched for that one, and looking forward to that one. I've heard about that for a long time, and kudos to all the team, the writers included, for that one. So looking forward to it. But yeah, just on kind of Worlds Beyond. So yeah, as I say, kind of what brought us to the space and where we thought we could bring something of value and something that would be a fit in there. We saw a lot in the other metaverses and kind of creator platforms out there. Sometimes they have kind of limited graphics there. They often have kind of complicated building processes. So, even if you wanted to build something out, you may require a developer or developer skills to further build something out that was to your taste, really. So we just felt that's going to kind of hinder the potential in the long run for more diverse gameplay mechanics, really. So, and that in turn results in the lack of fun factor, really. So we spoke about it earlier. So, we need Web3 games to have that fun factor. We need it to be comparable to Web2 to get people to come across in the first instance, really. So, these games have got to be fun. So, I did kind of say we are the Web3 Roblox for grown-ups, or looking to be that. So, everyone is kind of familiar with what Roblox is as a user-generated content platform. So we are very similar to that. We are kind of making these tools that are going to make things a little bit easier. I say for grown-ups because some of our graphical fidelity is a higher quality that you see in most of the Roblox experiences. Having said that, within kind of asset packs within our world that you can populate your 3D world, you can kind of use any kind of graphical fidelity in between, really. So, what we're building, as I said before, is the infrastructure and the tools. So we have kind of a world builder. So what that essentially is, you would go into our platform. You can choose one of 30 biomes, be that jungle, could be desert, frozen tundra, or kind of anything in between. And then our technology is going to auto-generate a 3D environment for you. It takes only around 10 to 15 seconds to do that. And then what that does, it spits out all these trees, these buildings, these roads on a 3D terrain. And basically that's your base map. So you can just, anything you see there, you can go on and edit it. You can build further. So we have a digital asset library, so you can drag and drop more kind of props within to the world, more buildings. There's modular parts of buildings within the digital asset library. So if you want to spend the time putting various bits of assets together to build out some really cool, unique structure, you can go ahead and do that. Creators are then able to kind of group that. They can kind of sell that as an NFT or rent it to other world owners, so they can easily drag and drop that into their world as well. And then kind of we have these super intuitive kind of paintbrush type tools, so you can kind of easily draw mountains, kind of draw rivers. If you played any kind of sim builder type game in recent times, these are kind of pick up and play tools, really. So once you've built out, your custom 3D game environment, that looks really cool. That's what you want. You then take it to the next level, which is where we have our game builder portal. So this is where the game logic side of things comes into play, really. So currently we've created around 12 game logic templates. We're working on more of these to come. So we've got a first and third person shooter. We've got zombie survival, we've got racing templates, there's space battle templates. So basically, as with the 3D environmental tools, you can take these game logic tools, templates we call them, and you can kind of modify and customize these. So in the example of the zombie survival, you can choose where kind of supply drops are going to be on your map, where the zombie spawn points are going to be, how many zombies are going to spawn out of there, and kind of how fast they're going to be, and all those types of parameters to make it kind of bespoke to you. And then there's the tools within this to kind of go on and kind of host these multiplayer sessions with friends. You can monetize it, but as much as we're allowing all individuals and creators to come in and use these tools, we're also working with I think around 17 kind of Web3 and Web2 projects that we're helping them develop some kind of more custom games and experiences. So these are going to be some more of the flagship titles on our platform. And some of these projects are using these for kind of, additional utility for their avatars. We've integrated 2D avatars and made them into 3D, so they're playable in the ecosystem. They're looking to run game nights, and engage their communities, or they're looking at these for kind of additional revenue streams in the future, really. So, we are just the enablers. We know everyone's vision of a metaverse or what suits their brand or suits their friend is completely different for everyone. So we are just providing the tools for them to be able to have all these options on the table to go out and build what they want with these tools, really. So I will just share a tweet and pin it to the thing here. So we had our alpha launch recently, which was a couple of multiplayer templates that we've launched, which is a multiplayer shooter royale and a Fall Guys type game. So we released those around 3 weeks ago. It's doing really well so far. We've got a lot of people playing, and we've got a lot of kind of those Web3 avatars that are integrated. And, we do have kind of some of these frictionless wallet experience. So that's kind of built in the background. So we're trying to remove some of those friction points, to the holy grail of those Web2 users to come across. We want to kind of take those things out. So the wallet creation is in the background. But, people can come in and play completely as a Web2 player. They don't have to mint any NFTs. They don't have to kind of trade any of the on-chain loyalty points. We want to kind of make it applicable and available to kind of all players at the end of the day. We just want those to come in and see that these experiences are fun. So we hope over time, with all these different creators coming in using these tools, as with Roblox, you're going to see a lot of kind of cool kind of games and experiences that you wouldn't necessarily think yourself or our developer team might not think would go viral or be really fun and exciting. So yeah, that's how we see it. So I'll drop that onto the thing and pin that up, and you can feel free to take a look.
Great, thank you. And then our last individual question is to Jeremy. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the metagame, more like specifically like how it actually works and what it looks like, from a player's perspective, and how people can actually get involved.
Yeah, sure. So it's a new genre of game. It's a new concept, so maybe it's a little bit hard to grasp, but you need to understand that. So our metagame invites you to play a new Web3 game every month. So the actual gameplay is going to complete a quest in different games. It can be Star Atlas, it can be in all the games here. So it's going to be, for instance, win one race or destroy one battleship. So you have to do this kind of in-game quest once per month, and then you get rewards. In order to participate, you need one CG hero. We release 1,000 of those. Actually, they are already listed right now in what we call discovery boxes. You can open these boxes on Monday, and the first quest will start a couple days later. So everything's going to go live in a week, and you'll be able to claim your CG hero and complete the first quest next week, actually. And so how does the rewards work? So we have part of the reward that is brought by the game. So part of the UA budget, I mentioned it. And how we make it innovative is that we actually create game mechanics from the metagame around this UA budget. So this UA budget is only a very small part of the earnings you're going to get for completing the quest in the game. We use the royalties from our CG Heroes collection. So they have like a 10% royalty fee. So each time they're traded, we take this money and we put it in the pool of rewards for every other users to get. And another thing is that we have our own coin, the Villains coin, which is part of our lore. And you get a lot of Villains coin as well by completing the quest. So you have your CG hero, you complete this quest, and actually you can upgrade your hero by getting some equipment. You can get them by staking your Villains coin, and then you get the loot box. Think about the CSGO style loot box, and then you get an equipment. You can equip it to your NFT, to your hero, so it's stronger. And the stronger it is, the more it's going to earn. So we create this meta game that is aimed at NFT gamers, KOLs in the space that like kind of the money games around all these NFTs, calculating the strengths of your hero based on the pool of rewards, how you're going to earn, et cetera, and at the same time leveraging all the content that exists right now, developed by all these different Web3 games. So the actual gameplay will happen in these Web3 games. We leverage all of that and we create our metagame around it. And to give you more context, actually, this is just the first step because we, as I mentioned very early, we are a B2B marketplace connecting guilds and games. So we are going to help many other guilds launch their own metagame. And we believe that it's going to be really the new wave of user acquisition in the Web3 gaming sphere will be between games and guilds co-designing this quest, and all the guilds will have their own metagame with their own hero collection, and will invite their users to go in all these different games. So that's what we will empower as well following that.
Beautiful, thank you. So moving on to our next question for everyone before we pick our giveaway winners. So maybe Nick, you can start us off with this one. So there's been a recent emergence of no and low code solutions for video game development and development in general. What impact do you think this will have on the gaming industry?
So, it's interesting, right? Because I think that this potentially opens up a world of possibilities, especially with the power of AI and what's coming kind of from the AI side of the tech space. I think that eventually user interfaces, low code, no code, are going to be the way that people, create fairly complex situations, and you're going to have kind of an emphasis focused on or placed on design, right? So design is going to become so much more important, and kind of the things like lore, things like story, all these things that really give the game its character and make it appealing to a particular user base are going to become so much more important, because a lot of the heavy lifting on game mechanics and on asset creation and 3D modeling are going to eventually be largely handled through AI solutions. At least a lot of the labor side of that is going to be handled. Now you're still going to need to kind of tie it all together in interesting ways. So what I think this is going to do is it's going to significantly reduce the cost of trying new concepts. So I think, one of the tough parts about gaming is just in order to produce a fully baked game, you need many millions of dollars and lots of time and lots of people to produce some of these bigger game concepts. But I think what some of these solutions are doing is allowing people to do that, for orders of magnitude less cost and with a smaller team. And so, I think what that lets you do is experiment. And I think through this experimentation, particularly in the Web3 space, we're going to see some really interesting game concepts evolve that just probably weren't possible before because of the risk of releasing a game like that. You'll probably see a lot more games being developed for niche markets that are, really, really well-developed games that kind of have a cult following, and you might see a game that's really fun to play and could even be considered, AAA quality 10 years ago, created for, 1,000 people. And that's their, addressable player base. And it's really just, the tools are so powerful that something like that is possible. I think you're going to see a hybridization of entertainment and gamification. I think what these tools are going to allow people to do is integrate gaming concepts into traditional entertainment products. So you're going to see more gamified storytelling experiences and whatnot, because gamification of those experiences isn't going to require an entire game studio. It could be, one or two enabled artists who have the right tools at their fingertips. So I think what you're going to just see, generally a lot of experimentation come out of this, and I think that's going to be an awesome thing.
Anybody else in the group have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'll dip in if I can. So, I personally believe it's going to have a significant impact. As I say, kind of, we are integrating some of these no-code solutions that I mentioned, kind of the drag and drop side of things in our creator portal. But, the AI side of things is what is really interesting. I know it's all very early access, but we've been speaking with a number of kind of products and platforms. Kind of NVIDIA have something called Picasso, which is kind of text to 3D models. So we're looking to kind of integrate that within the platform, so you can kind of just type a string out, like I don't know, medieval castle. It'll give you a 3D model. It'll give you kind of a mesh, and that goes into our digital asset library that you can drag and drop in there. So, if you're like me, you've got zero kind of modeling skills. I don't know how to use modeling software. I can import my own models and kind of build something. I'd have to use what's already in the asset library. But if I can just begin to type out strings to kind of populate my game environment, you can see how that kind of lowers the barrier for entry, and you're just going to see a huge diversification of kind of all manner of user generated content from people who wouldn't necessarily have been able to create things before like that, and kind of they can use their imagination to build out these assets. So, as I say, all very early access, and kind of we're all speaking with Unity. They're talking about the AI side of things, and if they can kind of, on top of the 3D assets, if they can bring in something that's the game logic side of things, and people can just start to type out what they want for their game logic, what's going to fit into games and experiences. Again, that's just going to open up all manner of possibilities for people being able to create their own games with the assets, with the game logic. And it's just going to showcase even more things that can come out. Obviously, there's probably going to be a lot of rubbish in there, with people having those tools, but I think it's just going to sprout up some kind of new and exciting things, really. So us as a platform, we're super excited about it. We're going to embrace all these things where we can, and it's definitely just the future. AI, we hear about it all the time, is the future in many technologies, but I think gaming, once it gets to that level, I think it's going to be huge, really.
And just to piggyback off of that, Star Atlas has already opened up its IP to the community, so we're really on the same wavelength. Art should not be curtailed. It should be a community event. Most art originated even in ancient times as community events, and I think blockchain is a tool that allows us to go back to times where things can be built together and not necessarily parsed as much. So the ability for creators, enthusiasts, fans, weekend warriors to be able to build upon using tools that are easy enough to function is the only way forward in this cyclical cycle of how art and entertainment sort of propagates within the world.
So real quick, we can continue this discussion in a little bit, but I want to, really quick before we end here, announce our giveaway winners. And since we have a bunch, I just want to go through them. So the first prize is going to be from Satoshiverse. It's a Satoshiverse NFT collectible trading card. And it's going to be the gold rarity Captain 8mo Takes London card. So the winner for that is Shunsuke at Shunsuke_1_. Congratulations. Send us a DM and we'll make sure to get you your prize. The next prize comes from Worlds Beyond, and that is a Land Pass NFT. The winner of that is Daddy DJ or at Daddy DH Remix. So please send Worlds Beyond NFT a DM, and they will make sure to get you your prize. And then next we have 2 whitelist spots from Crypto Guilds. The first whitelist spot is going to THC at Palmarov, and the second one is going to El Sol Labo at El Sol_Labo2. Congrats to you guys. Please send Crypto Guilds a DM to get your prize. And then finally, 2 whitelist spots from Animera. So the first one is going to Moo the DeFi Degen at Moo the DeFi Degen, and then the second one is going to Hamster Boss at Hamster Boss Pro. So send Animera Game a DM and make sure they'll get you your prizes. So sorry for interrupting the discussion. I think Animera, you might have had a point to add.
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about how low and no code solutions have been around for a while. I mean, even when it comes to game development, Unreal Engine has Blueprint for quite a few years now. And the easiest way to explain Blueprint is that, let's say if you were designing a website and you were using WordPress, you would just point and click inside, and all the logic, the look and feel, everything would happen at the back end without you even touching the code. Same with Unreal Engine. So, what happens when the level loads? Should the camera angle change? How do random items appear? All of those kind of things have already been in place, and that's really good because as the team size gets small, they get more nimbler. It means that more indie titles will be able to experiment and see what's working out there, and that's on the dev side of things. Now, on the creative side of things, I mean, what can I say? Like Midjourney has been complete lifesaver for all these small teams that are out there in Web3. Like, there's no time that we haven't looked at a mood board that's been created in Midjourney to say like, okay, if you want to create an environment with this type of battle scene, like what's it going to look like? And imagine all those type of things, which wouldn't have been possible years ago. So it's completely speeding up that time to market. It's lowering costs, and I think that's a great thing for everybody who are in this space. Like even a company like Ready Player Me, I mean, the entire business is built upon character customization. Even they opened up, predict a generative AI model in which you can put in prompts, and up to a certain degree, it will start customizing based on your prompt. So think about how many more extra, avatars and customizations you can create out of there. So yeah, it's only getting started from here, and it's going to be great, I think.
Great. Well, so I think we're out of time here, so I'm going to pass it back to Nick to end us off.
No, yeah, I love when the conversations flow past. I mean, unfortunately, I want to be, respectful of everybody's time, both on the panel and the audience. But it just goes to show that these are some great topics that everyone had a lot to say on. So thank you all so much for being on this panel. I know that everybody is busy these days, and it's hard to take out an hour of the schedule, but really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you to everyone who attended live. I know we have a lot of people who like to watch the recorded versions, and we'll be watching them over the next couple of days. But really, really excited that we were able to do this and have such great projects on. We'll definitely be checking back with you in the next couple of months to check out the updates and see what everybody's up to, and hopefully have you guys back on. I guess if you guys have any closing words, please feel free. If you want to direct anyone to anything, please feel free. But then otherwise, we will close it out. And just another big thank you from everyone at Satoshiverse.
I would just like to thank you guys for hosting us here and letting us ramble about lore and blockchain and everything. It's been a lot of fun. If you're interested in Star Atlas, go to play.staratlas.com. We're releasing new lore and story and gameplay consistently. And, just to iterate on Paulo's image there, live long and prosper, everyone.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks to Nick, Spencer for the space. Great space. Great to talk over these things, chew the fat, especially in the Web3 gaming. Likewise, if you're interested in Worlds Beyond, feel free just to check out our Twitter. Kind of our multiplayer games are there for anyone to come in and dip in and play and earn some on-chain loyalty points. But yeah, again, thanks for having us all. It was great to be here.
As for Animera, we are about to go into private beta soon, and we are prioritizing people from our Discord server. So please do check out discord.gg/Animera game. And collect enough points over there and get early access to the game. Thank you. Thanks for organizing this, Nick.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, and we will be signing off. See you next week.